Oh, we are going live. We are live. What is up, everybody? I am still getting some things set up while we start getting some people into the room here. So if you are already tuned in, go ahead and drop where you are. Sorry about that. Where you're viewing from. I'm going to get a couple more things set up, like I said. And whoa, then we will get started. Red Bull 1911. Thanks for hopping on. Let's see. JS Copy. Thanks for joining. All right, before we get started, just like every week, I want to say massive thank you to StreamYard for powering this stream. They allow me to stream to multiple platforms to use these really cool overlays, and I can put their logo up here. I can put my logo up here, all sorts of stuff. So if you guys are interested at all in live streaming, StreamYard is definitely going to be my recommendation. They don't pay me to say that, but they did give me a free subscription to try out for my stream, which is awesome. All right, we have a couple more people. LJS 2020, thanks for joining. Anthony, thanks for joining. If you guys haven't been here before, this is Beast Analytics Live, where I just look at a bunch of different numbers. Today, we are talking about share of voice tracking. So how much of the space are you taking up versus how much of the space are your competitors taking up? And if you have any specific questions, go ahead and drop those in the comments below or next to you, wherever you are, wherever you're watching from. This stream is live on Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope/Twitter. Periscope will be leaving soon, which is a bummer, but alas, if you have any questions about share of voice tracking, then go ahead and, oh, I just realized I spelled that incorrectly here. Jorge, thanks for joining. So share of voice tracking. This is actually really timely. I had this scheduled to talk about 2 weeks ago, I think. But this is actually really timely because one of my favorite things to do, favorite nerdy things to do, is to track the searches for brands as their Super Bowl commercials are played. So last year I wrote a full article about Budweiser versus, let me see, actually I should be able to pull it up. Like Budweiser versus Bud Light, and what people were talking about. Let me see, I'm going to pull this up real quick because this was just a really fun piece. Let me pull it up. Gosh, I actually wrote a lot last year at the beginning of the year. All right, so this was a really fun piece. So these are the dumb things that I like to do in my spare time. So looking up, how Audi versus Porsche went. And Audi actually performed a lot better, but it's because people were trying to figure out who that girl was in the commercial, right? These are things that we don't think about. A lot of people looked up Budweiser, but they didn't even know if there was a Budweiser commercial, and they were looking for the Clydesdale. Those were some of the searches that were going on. So just, during the Super Bowl, this is one of my favorite things to track, which again is really lame, but it's a lot of fun. And the reason I do that is because I'm very interested in the kind of the impact, right, that those commercials have, and if they're actually beating out their competitors by having those commercials. So one of the easiest ways to track share of voice is to use Google Trends. And the reason is because they have comparisons built right into them. So if I look up, let me think of a good comparison here. If I look up, no, because Ford, let's do Ford Motor Company. we can see this is the last 12 months in the United States. If we were trying to increase our share of voice in a specific region, we could always come here and do specific country. We could even do specific states or even DMAs. But we're going to leave this to the United States now. So we can see this is kind of how our interest has been over time. So this is the last 12 months. And we can do Chevrolet. And we can see that on average, Ford did have the upper hand, the more share of voice, more interest during that time. Now, these are branded terms, obviously, and we can kind of see, too, what states were, are they more popular in? It looks like all the states. But if we can see, too, like what people are looking up, right? So we know that Ford and Chevy, it's kind of a big rivalry, but specifically, we know that Ford trucks and Chevy trucks have a really big rivalry. And so we can look up and you can see that it's a lot more close knit, that the searches are pretty close, and in a lot of cases, Chevy's actually being searched more often. We can see the states where that's different. Washington, Idaho, Utah seem to favor Ford trucks, and then Florida, Virginia, New York, all these people up here in the Northeast. So, but that's just, again, these are just branded searches. And I think it is important that we look at specific keywords because, like I said, if we look at Ford versus Chevy, the majority of that rivalry is with people who drive trucks. And so just looking at Ford company versus the Chevrolet company isn't really going to give us a lot of information. We have to add that modifier. Now, another way to do this, so that's, again, this is looking at branded search. What we could do is we could just look up truck and get rid of this. I said I did not want that, please. And then if we go through the related queries, we can actually download all of those so we'd be able to see them all. But I'm just going to scroll through them really quickly. Let's see. So far, nothing. These are all rising. Let's go to top. So rising means that they are currently really hot topics, but the top is just over time things that have been searched often. So Chevy truck, okay, again, is higher than the Ford truck. And this is just Google searches, right? So, you would have to consider, are more people who like Ford trucks on Bing? Or are they using like a DuckDuckGo? That there's no telling. I would say that really the only time that would matter is if you know that the majority of your people are going to be using Bing. But I would say, right here, it shows us that Chevy truck is ahead of Ford truck. So if we had just looked at that one number, the Ford company versus Chevy company, then we would have thought, okay, well, as a company, we are performing better than Chevy. Not necessarily. When we added the truck modifier, we saw that Chevy truck was more interesting, or people found more interest in Chevy trucks over Ford trucks. And then when we just looked up truck, we can see, looking at the related queries, that the top queries under food truck and truck for sale was Chevy truck. So this is one really easy and free way to kind of track people's interest in you over time. Again, we could do this by, let's say we wanted to do Kansas. So I live in Kansas. We could see, maybe those top searches are different. So if I come, so all of these are like truck stops. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Let's see, top. I didn't want truck stop. I just wanted Truck. Okay, fine. Gotta tell you, the longer I look at the word truck, the weirder it looks. All right. Top. Tesla truck. So it doesn't really look like a lot of searches are coming. Ford versus Chevy here in Kansas. A lot of people are just looking to rent trucks or to go to a taco truck. That's funny. Jeep truck showed up. Tesla truck showed up. But no Chevy or Ford truck. So, this would be an instance where you would have to do like the Chevy truck and see if that had some interest, and then Ford truck. So it all just takes a little bit of playing. That's why I love doing stuff like this. So it looks like here, Chevy truck was looked up more than Ford truck, except for in St. Joseph, Missouri, which is interesting. Yeah. So that's Google Trends. Again, a fast, easy way to use or just to kind of compare yourself to competitors. Now, and that's for searches on Google. Now, if you want to get a broader overview of how you're performing in search compared to your competitors and for specific keywords, then I really like to use Moz because they make this very, very easy. So I have a list of keywords that I want Brian Fanzo to show up for. And this isn't really one of his competitors. It's his speaker coach, but I was looking into something, or not his speaker coach, but his manager, agent chick. And so I have a list of keywords that I want him to show up for. And I've, identified his competitor. But right away, now when I come to the dashboard for his campaign that we're running, I can see how visible he is in the search results for the specific keywords that I selected in comparison to the competitor that I've selected for him. So this is a really, really easy, just a really easy way to track organic search engine optimization share of voice, right, in comparison to your competitors. I do know, let's see, so if I had other competitors, they would show up here as well. I know that SEMRush does the same thing or something similar. So if I go to SEMRush or SEMrush, excuse me, they did correct everyone this year. So if I go to SEMrush, and I go to Brian Fanzo, no. SEMrush, please take me here, brianfanzo.com. That in this dashboard, if I scroll down, they have identified competitive or competitors and plotted them on this nice little map here for me. Now, these are people that they have selected as my competitors for Brian, and they're not really his competitors. He has kind of this one wild blog post that does really well where he looked at other speaker websites and talked about how he created his websites based on the things that he liked on other people's websites. And so now it ranks really, really high for speaker websites, and he gets a ton of traffic to that blog post for speaker websites. But as a speaker, the people that come to that blog post aren't the people that he are going to hire him. So a lot of, all of this is just saying or mapping out his competitors as people who create speaker websites. So that's a little crazy, and as you can probably imagine, not very helpful. I'm sure that there's a way for me to come in here and identify his competitors. I have not done that yet, so it's not set up, but you know, I'm sure there's a way to do it. And again, these are so for Moz, it was based on a specific list of keywords. This is more so just like these are the things that you show up for. These are competitors for those keywords. So instead of like your ideal situation, it's saying your current situation, right? So that's something to consider. On social, you can also do, and I think that we can do it here in SEMRush, where you can track your share of voice in comparison to your competitors. So if I go to, do I want to do tracker analytics? Let's see. So this is analytics. So maybe it is tracker. Yes, with yeah. So this will show you how you're performing in comparison to your quote unquote competitors. And this one, I have a video where I show you how to set this up to hold on, guys. There are puppies running around in the back. That are not my puppies. Okay, so you can set this up with the competitors that you've identified, and then you can see kind of the activity and engagement comparison, but really I would look more at that engagement comparison and see how people are, how often people are interacting with you as opposed to your competitors, because that's going to be a lot more telling of, you know, how of your share of voice in that. However, the biggest thing on social media that I would urge you to track would be your mentions and how often you're being mentioned versus how often your competitor is being mentioned. So, oh, what was the name of that free tool? Oh, what's the name of that tool? Hold, please. I'm going to stop sharing this for 1 second. Again, if you guys have any specific questions, go ahead and drop those in the comments while I get this figured out. Because this tool is actually really cool. When I taught digital marketing at the local community college, we used this tool in our intro to analytics course. Let me find it real quick. Come on now, let's see. Social media. Let's see. Social media. No. Earned. Social searcher, I think. Social. Okay. Yes, this is it. Let me go ahead and pull this up for you. I will get rid of this bad boy. Maybe this will show up. Here we go. Okay, so this is called Social Searcher. And what you can do is you can track mentions. So like if we did Hulu here, we get all of this information, like share of voice information specifically. So, excuse me, it'll see how many times we were mentioned, how many users mentioned us, and then also that beloved sentiment value, which is very important when it comes to social media share of voice tracking. However, the AI, I will say on this, is not very great. So I would take that sentiment value with a grain of salt. But so we can see there were 603 mentions by 360 users, and the sentiment is 4 good for everyone bad. And it will pull all of these results for us. Now, I know that there are paid tools that can do this. I like to focus on free tools when I can, just because it makes it accessible to more people. So again, this is social-searcher.com. And I just looked up Hulu. So let's say we're Hulu. We can also filter out some things if we wanted to. I'm not going to filter anything out right now. But so Hulu had 603 mentions by 360 people. Now, if I compared that to Netflix, then we would be able to get a better idea of how those two are competing for share of voice. So what did we say? 603 by 360. We'll see what we get here. So it looks like Hulu had more mentions, but by less users. And the sentiment value on Netflix is looking a little less than ideal. But again, that sentiment value, without looking through everything, I really wouldn't take that to heart. I would kind of take it with a grain of salt. So, but again, we can assume if they had, if there were, let's call it 1,100 mentions altogether, or 1,150 mentions altogether, that Hulu got about 60% of all mentions, and Netflix only got 40% of all mentions. So if we are Netflix, we know that we need to up our game in some sort of way so that we can get more share of voice from our consumers and users, if that makes sense. Let's see here. Does anybody have any questions about share of voice? Because really, those are kind of the main tools that I like to use. It is really important to track share of voice, specifically if you're doing any sort of branding campaigns or public relations campaigns. That share of voice is going to be really important. Even for SEO, it's very important. But I would say more so for branding and PR campaigns. Again, I will be doing the same thing this year that I did for the Super Bowl last year, which is frantically searching for the next 3 days. So Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, I'll be watching Google Trends to see how people are reacting to Super Bowl commercials, because I think that's really interesting. And I will be giving my my thoughts and opinions on those. So if you're interested in that at all, be sure to follow me on Twitter. If you're interested in supporting the show at all, you can go to my Buy Me a Coffee. There's a link in my bio on whatever platform you're on. And if you're interested in one-on-one coaching, so if you want to be able to track your own numbers and come to a finding to use strategy moving forward based on those numbers, hit me up. Let's do a coaching session. I do 1-hour sessions, or we can do more than that. I would be happy to do it. So thank you guys for joining me this week on Beast Analytics Live, and I'll see you next week. Don't forget, you're a beast.